Hey mommies, how are you? I hope that everybody is having a great day. And I bet a lot of you mommies out there have been a little bit busy. It's like that time of year when it's back to school, so everyone's out, doing a gazillion things. And on top of that, if we have younger babies too, then it can be sometimes hard to be out and about in malls and things like that and having to do shopping and things like that. And obviously a lot of spending money. I know what that's like. So I just wanted to bring about a couple of things to maybe think about. I know that maybe you're spending a lot of money lately, and especially as you add more kids to your family, then obviously expenses can get a little bit, out of control sometimes. So just wanted to give you some good tips in regards to saving some cash. And some of that is that a lot of your expenses in regards to breastfeeding can actually be tax deductible too. If you didn't know, well, before I mentioned that, a lot of times I hear like moms talking about how it's so expensive to formula feed your babies, and you have to buy formula and this and that and the other, and that, oh, it's so great, that you breastfeed because it's free. Well, it's not free, first of all. It takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication and a lot of effort and tears and a lot of sacrificing your time of doing things to spend time nursing your baby. So that's the first thing, and your time is not free, so never take that for an answer. And another thing is, obviously, if you're a pumping mom, if you go back to work and things like that, it can get pretty expensive, like buying supplies like for breastfeeding and for pumping and things like that. So I just wanted to make you aware that those are things that you can use to put in your taxes so that they can be tax deductible. Before I mention that though, so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a history about that, because I found it pretty interesting that in 2010 the American Board of Pediatrics brought to the IRS the idea, or like they started to mention that maybe these type of things should be tax deductible. Back then the IRS did not really agree. They were like not really on board with it. They didn't understand really how that had to do with the nutrition of the baby and how that would be tax deductible. I mean, you have to feed your baby anyway. So, but now as time has progressed a little bit since then, and we've been able to slowly, and I say slowly because there's a lot more work to do from our government and our employers and a lot of other people to help us to make breastfeeding, to have the support that breastfeeding mom needs and bring more awareness about it. So slowly we're getting there, but now we have things like the Affordable Health Care Act that supply us our breast pumps, so that when we go back to work, and even if we don't go back to work, so that we have them at home so that we can pump and things like that. So that's really, really good. But we don't know what's going to happen with the Affordable Health Care Act, because obviously that was started by Obamacare, and we don't know what's going to happen with that next year. So just in case, what does go still with the IRS is that you can still put a lot of those expenses, declare them with your taxes so that they can be tax deductible. And I just wanted to mention this because I was reading about this and I thought it was really interesting. And it said what you can do basically is, for the new part of the ruling that they have is that families can use pre-tax funds from flexible spendings account and health savings accounts to cover the costs of pumping and supplies and things like that, because they actually did a study, and this was a little while back, so probably it's a lot more expensive now. And when the IRS did kind of like an assessment of how much on a yearly basis a pumping mom would spend, or let's not say a pumping mom, let's say as a breastfeeding mom you would spend on breastfeeding supplies, and they estimated it about $1,000 a year. I think it's probably a lot more than that, because it doesn't just include the essential things. Maybe you need things like let's say gel pads or disposable pads or things like that to help you along your breastfeeding journey to make things more convenient for you. Or you might need, for example, supplements. That's maybe something you wouldn't think about. Or you need, like, maybe you have cracked nipples, so you need to buy like nipple balms and things like that. Or nursing bras. I go through those pretty quickly because I have to wash them so much. So there's a lot of other supplies that you don't kind of think of, but they are necessary and you do need them. So a lot of those things can go there. I mean, if any mommies that are out there watching, I know there's a few of you watching the video and the stream right now, so let us know what are things that maybe you have spent the most money on in regards to breastfeeding supplies. Is there anything in particular that you seem to be like, it's like a recurring thing that you have to be buying all the time? And also, what about pumps? You know, if you are definitely a pumpy mom and you have to pump all the time, you wouldn't expect a pump to last years and years and years. You probably have to buy one every so often. And especially for your pump to be working efficiently, you need to be renewing your, you know, certain parts of the pump too. So that's something else that is an expense, and those little things can be very expensive. Even just buying like extra flanges and things like that, all those things can start to add up over time. So those are all things, don't forget about them. Don't think that they're just things that you have to buy. You know, keep your receipts and everything, and when you come to do your taxes, those are all things you can put there as tax deductible. And if you had to buy, like, you get one pump, I know, with the Affordable Health Care Act, because I've been able to get them with my kids. But at one point when I was pumping at work and pumping at home, I found it a lot more convenient to have one pump in each place, so I had to buy another pump. Again, that's an expense because you just get one through the Affordable Health Care Act. And sometimes if you're like a traveling mom, I used to have to travel with work and stuff like that, so maybe I didn't return back to the office and I had to go back home, so I needed to have that extra pump. So those are all things that you know, we kind of don't think about when it comes to breastfeeding and pumping and stuff like that. And those things can slowly start to add up. So I just wanted to bring awareness about that, especially right now, you know, when we have so many expenses with the kids going back to school and so many things, that these are things too that you can bear in mind for next year, and you can get them, you know, reduced off your taxes. So just wanted to share that. If you have any opinions in regards to that, please let me know. And I would definitely like to know what expenses you guys have the most, or you feel that you're spending a lot on when you're breastfeeding, and maybe we can give some tips to help each other, you know, maximize on that, or ideas to get more value out of those. Okay, bye mommies.